one aspect, the uniqueness of the writings of Rav Kook, the thought of Rav Kook, what I would call it the tfisa achdutit, this holistic perspective, seeing this unified vision, how all the parts fit together, how all of history, all the aspects, all the details, everything fits into a bigger scheme of things. Ultimately, the divine, seeing the white light, and the divine absolute, that is the source of all, nothing outside of the divine. How to see everything, though, that seems to be contradictory sometimes, going against. How if you get to a higher level, a deeper perspective, you can see the transcending idea that unified is the roots of all that. So today I wanted to maybe give you an example from the writings of a Kook on this topic. If you want to pass that. It's based on the Gemara, the end of the first tractate in the Talmud, which is Brachot. The end of Brachot, which is also what we say at the end of Tefillah every day. What we say at the end of Tefillah every day of Shacharit, which you have in front of you. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Amar Rabbi Chanina, Talmidei Chachamim Marbim Shalom Ba'olam. The rabbis, the scholars, add peace to the world. We have to understand that. How do they add peace? Shneimar v'chol banayach libonei Hashem, v'rav shalom banayach al tikrei banayach ela bonayach. All of your children shall be taught of Hashem, the knowledge of God, and great shall be the peace to your children. The verse from Yeshayahu 54. So, again, this is a difficult statement, seemingly, as we'll see, that it seems the opposite. Rabbis just argue, conflict in different discussions and debates. And so we'll see what shalom means. What does it mean, peace? What is the real deeper understanding of shalom? Because there's some type of shalom that is maybe a ceasefire. Like there's a deterrent. People have peace in the world. Different nations are attacking each other. They want to kill each other, but they don't because one guy has an atom bomb on this. So not because they love, there's peace and there's love and unity, but rather there's no war because I can ceasefire. It's not worth it. There's a deterrent that they lose out more than they'll gain, so they don't fight. There's also a piece of, you could say, of courtesy, that people don't fight. They respect other people's opinion. They realize that not everyone has to think the way they do. Like what's called tolerance. They tolerate other opinions. But here we'll see an even higher level, a deeper level. So let's see what he says in line number 3. Yesh to'im lach shechoshvim. There are people that mistakenly think. Right now he's going to say what people mistakenly think, not what he's going to say, but people mistakenly think, or think incorrectly. People that mistake and think. Sha'ashalom ha'olami lo yibaneh ki im al yedei tzivyon echad b'diyot u'tchunot. They think that world peace, this bigger peace, will be brought about, will only be built through tzivyon, one character, in opinions and characteristics. Everyone thinks the same, says the same. They all agree. Then you have peace. No one fighting. They all say the same, think the same way. It's great. People that, Anash, it's called, Anshe Shlomenu. The people that agree with me, that we get along fine. Wars are problems when people think differently, think otherwise. And according to that opinion, when they see scholars and rabbis, chokrim b'chokhmah v'dat Torah, arguing and discussing and controversy and polemic, al idei mechkar, mitrabim atzadim v'shiton. And because of this, call it polemic approach, the Talmudic approach, back and forth, give and take, and discussions and arguments, there are more aspects and sides. Each one, proposes his opinion and his aspect and his point of view. In line number 5, and therefore it seems to be on the superficial, mistaken understanding of peace, when everyone's supposed to think the same, when the rabbis are saying different approaches, and more the merrier, the more the rabbis, the more the different opinions, they think that is causing more machloket. What's machloket? Argument, debate, different opinion, the opposite of peace. I don't know what they would think. Hefech HaShalom, the opposite of peace. And then of course it says, Ubemet ein okay, but the truth is otherwise. The truth is not so. So how can it be? Different opinions, everyone's arguing and discussing, and you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. We have thousands of opinions. It's the opposite of shalom, it seems. He says it's not so. Line number 6. Ki shalom amiti, the true peace, אי אפשר שיבוא לעולם כי אם דווקא על ידי הערך של ריבוי השלום. That true peace, this lofty understanding of peace. Like you say, shalom is like the word from the root of shlemut. What's shlemut? Completeness. Completeness is not having one opinion. That's not complete. You're missing a lot more. Either the completeness, the shalom will come dafka because of ribuya shalom, the multiplicity. What did we say what is the verse in Yeshayahu? V'rav shalom banech, the multiplicity of peace. Okay, multiplicity of peace, because the multiplicity of the different ideas and different. Haribui shel shalomu, what does that mean? The multiplicity of peace, of shlemut, of totality. Shitra'u, line number 7. Kol atztadim v'kol hashitot, that all the aspects and all the methods and all the approach, all the systems, all the angles will be exposed. V'itbararu ech kulam yesh lehem makom kol echad lefi makomo v'nino. And then it'll be clarified how all of them have their place, have an aspect, have their room, like it says in Pirkei Avot, there's nothing that doesn't have its place. Each thing, like I said before, this holistic understanding sees how there are different parts, but each one has its role, is necessary in the makeup of the whole. Like in an orchestra, a simple example, metaphor. You have different instruments. So one guy would say, no, if you have peace, is when you have one instrument, everyone's playing the same music, the same thing, you see? You don't have to print up all the different sheet music for all the different instruments. There's one music for everyone, the same, just one drum, or 100 drums, one saying the same thing. No, the beauty, the richness of the music is by the multiplicity, the variety, the diversity of all the instruments. The more the merrier, the richer the music. And they all work in harmony towards that bigger, like I said, ideal, towards that one harmonious entity, that oneness that transcends the individual, the details. It seems they're contradictory. If you're a violin, you're not a drum, you're not this, you're playing different music, you're going against me. But together, because of the greatness of the ideal that is so great, so lofty, that requires all these different views and different aspects and different instruments to reveal it. Because it's so great, the divine ideal is so great, so lofty, it requires all the different parts. The body requires all the different limbs. But they're different, the arm, the leg, the heart, the different functions, different things. But what do we say in the blessing after come out of the bathroom? If one is closed or one is open, then we can't live for a moment. Each of the parts we need, even the lower parts, the dirtier part, we need every part. It wouldn't be good if they're all one big giant heart. No, that's not the goal, to be a heart. The heart is the most important, gives life. But we need all of them. Each one needs the other, and the other needs, right? One needs all, and all for one, and one for all. So also in this world of ideas, let's say what he's talking about, not only, but specifically in the Gemara, the Talmudic discussions of different opinions, the clarification, the shlemut, the shalom, the totality, the completeness comes about when all the different parts are there, and each one finds its place and how it contributes to this glorious harmony. The Adrabah, line number 8, and the opposite. Even those things that seem to be superfluous, extra, unnecessary, okesotrim, contradictory, they go against the idea, they go against my idea, whatever. Will be revealed, will be seen, that when the bigger truth is revealed in all of its aspects, will be seen that only through the combination, in other words, all the connection of all the different parts and all the details and all the opinions that seem so different, all the different approaches and ideas and concepts. Dafka through that will be revealed the bigger understanding, the bigger ideal, the bigger truth of the divine Torah, the divine truth. What is emet? That's the word emet. Aleph, mem, taf. Aleph is what? And amongst the letters, the first letter. Taf is the last letter. Mem is the middle. In other words, emet is the all-inclusive. It's not one. People think emet is like my truth and everything else is not. No, it's the emet is so great that it encompasses, like I said, this holistic, all-inclusive truth, the whole spectrum. And it needs every part. If the aleph is missing, what do you have? Met. That's dead. In other words, the truth encompasses all, the divine truth. We'll have to see how this works. What about there's things that aren't true? There's things that are bad, that are evil. We'll see. The Maral has a deep treatise on this, of the understanding of Bechlal Machloket, in Ber Agola, Mal of Prague. And other rabbis also talk about the significance of Machloket, of different opinions. But until actually he bring it down later, the Gemara in Eruvin, that says, Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. This and that are the words of God, the true words of God. The different opinions in the Gemara and Halacha. One says forbidden, one says allowed. One says impure, one says not kosher, one says kosher. What do you mean they're both true? It's either or. You can't be both. They're contradictory. They're mutually exclusive. So the rabbis explain in the metaphor of like an elephant. Blind people describing an elephant. One guy says it's long, it's short, it's how do you say, coarse, it's tough, it's soft. You're not talking about the same thing. There's one elephant. No, they're all true. One guy is touching the tusk, one guy is touching, I don't know, the legs, one touching the head. In other words, they're all describing different aspects. And Dafka, all of them together make up that truth, the true picture of the elephant. Who's wrong? They're all right. The earth is water or land. There's parts like this, parts like that. It depends what part you're discussing. There are aspects. So too, when Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, different opinions, opposite opinions. So in halacha, there's what we call the crystallization of halacha. Goes by, we have certain rules of which one you go by. You can't live on both. It's either it's edible, you're allowed to eat it, you're not allowed to eat it. You can't do both true. They both have aspects of truth. There's an aspect of tumah in this certain thing, of impurity, and there's an aspect of purity. But we can only go by one. So indeed, we have halacha, there's principles, we go by, again, there's rules of halacha. We go by Beit Hillel, except for this. We have rules of clarification of which one we go by in practice. And there's also, so why do we write, what is the Talmud full of the other opinions? Just erase the other guys, just write the Shulchan Aruch, just the laws. But the Talmud remains and retains the other dissenting opinions because they have an aspect of truth. And in certain cases, we rely on them. In certain cases, what's called hefsed meruba, there's a great loss. Let's say you lose a lot of money. There's certain cases you can rely, or after the fact, like the b'diavad. Like al-Khatchili is supposed to go by this, and this is the opinion we go by. But because there's other opinion which has an aspect of truth, an element, that usually we go by the dominant, let's say, the most of the earth, I don't know, is water or land? Water. But we usually go by the dominant, whatever the factor. But here, there's certain times where you have to understand and relate and use and utilize and go by the dissenting opinion, which also has an element of truth. So again, that's used. It is not forgotten and it's dismissed and it's disregarded and it's erased. It still holds water. In other words, it still remains true. So even though it wasn't the dominant explanation, understanding, the aspect also shows up in certain cases. There's a Gemara that exemplifies this understanding. In the Gemara in Bava Metzia, 84a, it records a story, relationship between Reish Lakish. You don't have it on the sheet. This is I'm adding as an example. Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan was ultimately the author of the Talmud Yerushalmi. There were decrees, and it was difficult to learn. A lot of the rabbis went to exile. Rabbi Yochanan was a very Zion. He remained in Israel, ultimately redacted what we call now the Talmud Yerushalmi. And the story how he met with this relationship with Reish Lakish. One day, Rabbi Yochanan was swimming in the Jordan River. Reish Lakish was then a highwayman. He was a bandit. This is before he was the rabbi. No, sorry. He was a bandit. He saw him. He saw Reish Lakish. He saw Rabbi Yochanan in the river. And he jumped in the Jordan River after him. He thought he was a woman. He had no beard, apparently. And he saw this beautiful woman in the river, and he jumped like he was a very healthy, how do you say, highwayman, bandit. In other words, a very strong physical. He jumped over this, whatever, into the river to be next to her, and all of a sudden, Rabbi Yochanan says he saw this great strength, the power of him, and he said to him, Chelcha leoraita, your strength to be used for Torah should be redirected. He didn't say, you lousy, rotten, what are you doing chasing women, whatever. He goes, oh, we'll talk about this hopefully. You have power, you have energy. You just have to know how to redirect it. So again, we're talking about before, this holistic view that sees everything has its place. You can say, no, it's not the truth. It's not Torah. It's not religious. Get rid of it. Throw it away. No, but there's a kernel of truth in that. There's an energy here that has to be used. A lot of other cases Rav Kook uses and explains how the redirecting of the energy, not to destroy, because then you're losing that energy. You're losing that aspect of truth that it has. But rather you have to redirect. So he tells him, your strength to be used to Torah. So Rish Lakish said to him, your beauty belongs to women. You're so pretty. It's a waste on a man. It should be by women. Rish Lakish, Yochanan says to him, if you repent your ways, if you redirect your life, you do tshuva, become and learn Torah, I'll give you my sister that's even prettier than I am. Rish Lakish accepted upon himself. And then when he went back to go to get his clothes from the other side of the river, outside of the shore, whatever, Lo Mati was not able to muster the strength to do so. The rabbis talk about what happened when he was so strength, how the beginning of Torah, now the energy was going to Torah, and he had loses that at the beginning, this the physical strength. He says, Rabbi Yochanan went on, taught him the Torah, taught him Mishnah, and he made him into a great man. He became Reish Lakish that we know now, the whole discussions in the Talmud, Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, back and forth, give and take, discussions, arguments. There's another continuation of the story here. It's very interesting and sad, and there's a certain misunderstanding between them and what happened. But let's get to what relates to what we're talking about here. Reish Lakish passed away. Let's get to the bottom line. It's an interesting, sad story, so to speak. Reish Lakish passed away, and the rabbis wanted to. And he was very grieved. Right, he lost his chevruta, and the rabbis wanted to find someone that would comfort him. But now to learn in place of Reish Lakish, he needs a learning partner, needs someone to study with. So they turned to Rabbi Elazar ben Padat. That his scholarship was brilliant. He was strong. He was Tommy, a big Torah scholar. So Rabbi Elazar ben Padat went and sat before Rabbi Yochanan. To everything Rabbi Yochanan would say, Rabbi Elazar ben Padat would answer him, Tanya de Messiah lecha. There's a source that agrees with you. What you said, wow. There's a source in the Talmud, other Braita, whatever, that, yeah, you're right. This is what it says here also. Rabbi Yochanan ultimately said to him, you're supposed to be like Reish Lakish. You're supposed to be in place of Reish Lakish, my learning partner. Now listen to this. Reish Lakish, ki hava mina milta. Whenever I would say something, hava maksheli esrim va'arba kushiyata. He would bring 24 questions and contradictions and proving me wrong. 21 questions on what I said. The opposite. Not to agree with me. He would bring 24 questions. And I would give him 24 solutions. And result of that, the give and take, the back and forth, the subject became clear. The truth, the bigger truth was revealed. Not by me telling that I'm right. He goes on. You constantly say, Tanya de Meselach, I have a source that supports you. What's that useful? I didn't know that what I said was true. I need someone that gives me the opposite, the opinions, this dialectic that Socrates, right, the whole method of teaching, questioning and back and forth, that causes you to define, redefine, update your understanding. You said something, the other guy says, no, but it doesn't fit this. You have new data, new information, right? The scientific method, you have a theory that explains certain things. You have Newton, explains the laws of nature, whatever, the gravity, etc. And all of a sudden things don't fit. You have things that are, go the speed of light, or the electron, whatever, that fast-moving particles doesn't fit the laws. So you have Einstein, whatever, you now enlarge the theory that now is bigger by that contradiction to his theory, under laws of nature, whatever. You get the new information that you have to make a bigger understanding that includes the new data, the new information, the highest, moving laws of theory of relativity, etc. Now, where the different opinions force out to clarify, not to stay where you are, to stay put. I don't need opinion to tell me that I'm right. That doesn't grow. We said that's shalom. Shalom. I want to be peaceful. Everything you say is right. Congratulations. No. The other opinion, what Rav Kook said, brings out the bigger truth. You redefine, re-understand, re-elevate your understanding. Inclusive, more includes all the truth that you had. You're right. You have a point there. And that I wasn't included in my truth. So therefore, I have to upgrade and explain in a different way, in a higher way that now, like I said, is more encompassing. And the truth comes out, like we said, clear, the Torah Emet, the Torah of truth, that includes all, that uplifts all, that connects all, that explains all. That's the, you could say, the method of Torah Eretz Yisrael. The Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 24, discusses the difference between the rabbis of Bavel and the rabbis of Eretz Yisrael. It says the rabbi, Talmidei Chachamim in Bavel, they're like chovlim. They attack each other. They're like attackers. Like Chabala is like to word in English, you know, Chabala. Kaplan is someone that takes away the bombs. Like it's a bomb, it's an attack, it's a negative thing. They attack each other. You say one thing, no, you're wrong. It's my opinion, that's the truth. Yours is all wrong, to reject. They chovlim, they attack. It says the rabbis of Eretz Yisrael, manimim zeh bezeh, they're noam. He brings down the verse. They're pleasant with each other. Oh, you have an opinion? Oh, I see what you're saying. There's something to that. There's a truth in that. Oh, let me see this. Let me analyze this. And by that, and the Rashi brings down that that's how, again, the same idea, that the truth comes out even greater, more embellished, more meshuchlal, more enhanced, advanced, and more bigger, closer to the real absolute truth. We'll never get to the absolute, the divine, the total. We're all human. But the more subjective becomes more and more in line with the objective truth. But not by rejecting that which seems to be opposite and contradictory. Rabbi Yochanan wanted that. He needed that. That's how the truth, the Gemara says, how the truth comes out. Rav chashmaitata. The subject became clear. Because you need all the different aspects. All the different aspects make up the truth, a different angle, like I said, the elephant, so to speak, whatever, the instruments or the orchestra, whatever metaphor. When you have a certain opinion, a certain idea, a certain ism that you have, you believe in, and you wish to convince other people, of course, right in another place, that if you come to reject them, your idea is all false, there's nothing in it, it's all, just go by me, come to me, join my group. It won't succeed because there's a kernel of truth that people are looking for that they find in another movement, another idea. And yours doesn't include that. Or as long as yours doesn't include that, then you won't be able, you'll convince a few people to leave that and come to your nice truth, ism, whatever, Judaism, religion, whatever it is. But the truth is, it won't ultimately succeed because there's a kernel of truth in the other approach, the other opinion, other ism, social justice. You're a Zionist of Eretz Yisrael, but there's social justice, communism, other ideas in the world. And as long as your truth is limited, then those that are looking for that truth, want that truth, that need that truth, and that's why they go to that movement, they will stay there, even if they recognize that truth has a lot of shells around it, a lot of evil. Right? As you know, communism, other different things, it's not the ideal in totality, in its fullness. But there's a certain kernel of truth in that. So what you have to do, Rav Kook says, is build the tower, he says, so to speak, is to enhance your understanding, your truth, your concept, to include that other truth. And then they'll find that truth that they're looking for in you, in your movement, in your concept, in the Torah, let's say, in the bigger truth, without the necessity of having any other negative baggage and garbage with it. They realize the truth in its idyllic form, or purer form by you. But not by you rejecting that, trying to cut it off. You have a fruit with the shell, right? You have always the shell comes first, the rabbis say, before the fruit. You cut off the whole thing. This is it's bitter, it's no good. But you're losing also the fruit inside. But the goal is to recognize, to see the inner truth, the inner kernel of truth, whatever, like I said, everything has its place, everything we said before. And to find its place, not that it's the way it is, as is, it's okay. Everything is good, everything, pluralism, everyone is right. We say, everyone, those are the words of God, and those are the words of God. No, not everything is true. There are false words, there's evil in the world. But each thing has a certain aspect, a certain kernel. And that's the difficulty, to find that truth, to elevate, that's what the rabbis talk about, the elevation of the sparks, of finding that. Not by cutting them off, you lose that fruit that's inside. And like I said, you won't win because there is a truth over there. No, Judaism isn't worried about social justice, fixing the world. We just have our service of God and do the mitzvot. Mapitom, the Torah is the source of the ideal, the divine ideal that includes every kernel of truth has to be found in Torah. It's the source of the absolute truth, the total truth. The question is how much you understand of it, how much you represent. So when you have this conflicting opinion, you have to wait a minute, something that I'm missing apparently, that I have to grow. And this other opinion causes you to grow and to enhance, and the extent of your truth, the scope of your truth is enhanced and made greater and more inclusive, which means closer to the divine, closer to the emet eloki, the emet, aleph ad taf, from A to Z, everything. So that's, again, from like the white light, that includes all the different colors. If you're missing something, then the truth is missing, is lacking. So the completion, the shalom that we spoke about, the shleimut, the totality, requires all the different things. All that you thought was contradictory, if you get up to a higher level, you realize how it's complementary and not contradictory. It completes the truth. It makes a higher truth. And again, you have to be careful. Again, not that everything as is all true. There's a kernel of truth, but you have to know how to get rid of the shell. Unfortunately, human ideas have a certain aspect, like that enhances people, that causes that attracts them. There's something musari, something moral and ethical in them that attracts them. But it can be, again, with a lot of garbage around it. And they think there's no choice. This is the truth that I want. And you have to take what comes with it. Nothing is perfect. But no, if you have, and what we're supposed to do is reveal the divine truth, the absolute, the total white light, that has it all. All the truths are now found in one place, so to speak, in this holistic view, perspective of divine truth. And then they'll come running. In other words, then they'll see how you can have the truth that they're looking for without the need for the negative. So that's what Rav Kook writes here in line number 10 again, that all the different opinions that seem to be so different and contradictory are actually complementary. Dafka al yadam, through them all together, they will see the ora emet, the light of the truth, the emet, the A to Z, the totality, the holistic. And he goes on to explain the verse itself and all the words, every word in this passage of the Limudei Hashem, Rab Shalom Baneach. Maybe we'll just see what I underlined a few places here. In line number 15, where I underlined, B'chol echat mehena, and all of the different opinions, yesh tzad shetitgaleh al yado yediat Hashem v'rohem. Each one, each aspect, each angle, each perspective adds a certain element. There's an aspect that will be revealed through it of the knowledge of God, of the light of the truth, of the bigger truth. In other words, each thing adds, like each instrument of the orchestra adds a certain part that you need. We can't do without it. So don't reject it because it's a different opinion than yours. How do you say? To expand your opinion, expand your truth, that it includes that truth, or what comes out of the different opinions. Like I said, the dialectic approach is what brings out a bigger truth. Line number 18. Ki or hadat tzarich latzeit lechol tzadav. The truth, this bigger ideal, has to come out in all of its grandeur, all of its aspects. Lechol hapanim shel ora sheyesh bo. All the different aspects of light that are in it. Like again, the prism. Like the white light comes down and diffracted all the different colors. It's so great. It's this white light, this divine ideal of good for all that encompasses all and raises all, and it has to be revealed in all of its splendor, in all of its aspects. Like again, the music, this great symphony orchestra requires all the instruments to bring out that beauty, the richness. Line number 20. Ki abinyan yibaneh michalakim shel. The building will, this edifice, this great edifice, will be built by different parts. Ve'emet shel or ha'olam tibaneh mitzdadim shonim, mishitot shonot. That the truth of the light of the world will be built through the different aspects and the different approaches and different things. Ve'elu divrei Elokim chayim. And they're all, again, from the Gemara in Eruvin, page 13b, they're all the words of God. Again, I might be clarified that it doesn't, not everything is true as it is, as they say it, as they understand it. There's a truth in everything. There's an aspect of truth. But to find that, Rav Kook has an Otakot about Schopenhauer, different ideas and approaches, and to find the truth, understand how the kernel, but not take things as it is. Like I said, some modern pluralism, and now it's even beyond that. The postmodern, there's no truth. But the up to now, like the pluralism, everything is true, everything goes, it's all hefker, everything, whatever you say is good, it's all true, everyone has their truth, and whatever. Now there's no truth, there is no one. There's different approach. The humans looking for the truth, looking for this. We're going through stages of development. But to see the divine roots in everything, to uplift those sparks of truth, of elements, and bring out, not as is. Like Rish Lakish, what did Rabbi Yochanan did to Rish Lakish? There was a kernel of truth in what he was doing, so to speak, that energy. He didn't say as is, stay a bandit, stay a thief. What's the word, a bandit? What's they hold up the trains, they used to hold up, what are they called? Robbers, whatever, robber. Not to stay a robber, but you have a power in here. What's behind that? what drives you. You have a strength that you can jump over the rivers. You can, for women, you use that for chilchale oraita. There's another thing of Rav Kook. It talks about there was, forget the details of Shavuel. There was, in the time of David, there was someone that was, how do you say, a priest for idol worshipping. He was like the treasurer, that he loved money. He didn't believe in the idol worshipping, but he loved money, he loved dealing with money. He was like an expert with money. And he became famous for his, for idol worshipping, the treasurer for the Avodah Zarah, for this idolatry. And David HaMelech didn't, you think he'd throw him away, get rid of this guy, whatever. He made him the treasurer of the Beit HaMikdash, or before the Beit HaMikdash, the treasurer of the state of Israel, of the kingdom. In other words, to use those powers and redirect them for good. You're an expert. Money is what you live by. You just love handling money and touching it. But he's an expert in finance, whatever. But he's using it where it was money. He had the money. They offered him a lot more in in idol worshipping. So take those powers, take those energies. That's why Shavuel he's called. The Gemara says he returned to God. Those powers are now redirected and used to full it, like Reish Lakish. Reish Lakish became a giant of, again, the whole Talmud is full of Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan. So this bandit uses those powers that Rabbi Yochanan, instead of throwing him away, and you lousy, rotten person, chasing him, he redirected. That's, again, this perspective of seeing how the good and finding it, and again, redirecting, not as it is, take it as face value, so to speak, but how it makes up the part. It's needed. And if not, then my truth is lacking. Rabbi Yochanan wanted the other opinion, wanted someone to counter him and not say, just agree with me, yes, man. And that's the true peace. The true peace, the shleimut, the totality that encompasses and includes all. Line number 21, the end. Shekol achat tufes mikamo, everything takes its proper place. Ve'ein la'abed kol kishon v'shleimut, and you should not lose any talent or completion, anything good, any aspect. Ki'im l'archivo, but rather to expand it. V'limtzol ha'makom, to find its place. Like I said, to read in English, right? To redirect it, to find where it belongs, how it's used properly, that energy. Chelcha leoraita, put your power to Torah. Use it with its harmony to bring out, to serve all the different instruments, serve this bigger goal, the harmony of the music, the divine harmony of the world, the goodness of absolute good that he wishes to bestow and reveal. So don't get rid of the talents, don't lose them, rather expand them and to find their proper place. V'im tires tira, but if you find a contradiction, but it seems to be going against a bandit, a robber here. You have to look in depth. It's not for us, every simple person. How to find that inner truth, how to find that transcending one. Like Kook talks about in Mamar Riyah, there's the Kodesh V'chol, there's the holy and the mundane. Seemingly two contradictory things, or two, although Rav Tzviuda used to point out, in Havdalah we say Hamavdil ben Kodesh L'chol, we separate. I don't know if in English it's hard to say. There's a distinction, but not a separation. He says Havdalah is not Hafradah. In other words, you distinguish. They're not the same. Not everything is equal, but they're not separate. Like Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba. They're right. Olam Hazeh is this world is the Tfaklin. What do you call it? The entrance, the gateway to Olam Haba. In other words, they're not separate. They're not the same, but they're not opponents. They're parts of. And Rav Kook talks about Kodesh V'chol are two aspects of the higher level, this transcending oneness, which is called the Kodesh Elyon, or the Holy of Holies. Like in the temple, the Holy of Holies, there was a place that was half holy and half mundane. Sanhedrin, whatever, the Lishkat HaGazit, other place, that there was this Lishka that was half-half. In other words, the Kodesh is so lofty that it reveals itself in these two aspects. And there's levels, there's Madrigot. But levels and distinction doesn't mean separation and getting rid of. In other words, unity is not uniform, like I said before, that he said that people think that everyone says the same, that's what peace is. No, unity, I could summarize here, is not uniformity, that everything is the same. Unity, harmony, the shalom, the shleimut, is the totality of all, the all-encompassing. Again, the white light that includes it all. And that's the vision of Torah Eretz Yisrael, as we discussed at length when we talked about that. And like I said, this example I gave you from Sanhedrin 24. So we have to see and analyze and go deep to find the chok hapnimi, line number 24, the internal rule, the internal law in these concepts. And there they will be all work together in harmony and not contradicting each other. And he says that's what enriches the wisdom and causes the harchavata, the expansion of the, like I said, extends the scope of the truth. It is not just a small truth and everything else is outside of it. It's such a great truth that includes everything. All the good you can find in it. But the usual opinion is like each one has their truth, as opposed to excludes everyone else's truth, your ideas. And here we're talking about rising up to get to the point of more and more the transcending, the divine, the absolute, the white light. And then you see how all the different parts make up pieces of that bigger truth, bigger puzzle, so to speak. It's what enhances the wisdom. 26. Therefore, you'll be seen that it would have been impossible to build that edifice, that big harmony, that big music, without the building of peace, except through all those different influences and ideas that seem to be so contradictory. And again, he repeats in 28. I mean, he's explaining the words here. Shalom, every word of the passage there, but I'm not going through how, the diuk of the words in Hebrew. But each word here is exact, and according to the explanation, fits, or the explanation to fit each word there, how it explains that whole saying of the rabbis from Banayach. But I'm just explaining the concept. Shlomam lo yu shlo yu kulim kol cheshvan. Not that everyone peace is that they work in peace is not that they all work. They're all the same. They're all equal. Ki dafka de ribuya kochot, rather by the multiplicity, the variety of the different powers and their oppositions. The harmony that comes by the coordination of the different things, of the different music, the different sounds, the different instruments. It's not that they're all the same. Not one, like we said at the beginning. The itnagdut, the opposition, like Rabbi Yochanan. The other opinions, the other music, and that's how the quality of the rich, the harmony, what harmony means. Tiferet is like is the glory, the beauty that comes out of the different things that are now coordinated and work together and balanced in harmony. They all bring about to this one unified, lofty goal. And everything has its place. It's all built with composition, all the different things. Here, line number 38, it's a deep thing. Shalom sheli tachdut shel kol hafachim. The oneness, the harmony, the peace that comes out of the unity of the opposites. That's a concept the Maral talks about a lot, the achdut hafachim, the unity of the opposites. How can you have unity of the opposites? They're opposite, they don't unite. But that's the grandeur, like I said, the elevated, the oneness that transcends the different aspects and needs them all, requires them all to express itself fully. Like I said, the music, the richness is because of dafka, specifically through that multiplicity, variety, and diversity of the instruments. So what seems to be the opposite, to rise up and to understand the connection, and that's what he ends with. Shalom hu shmo shel kodesh bar. Right, peace is one of the names of God. Shu bala kochot kolam. He is the master of all the powers. Like again, the source beyond that is the roots of all and above all and transcends all, but unifies all and is revealed in all. Hakol yuchal v'kolam yachad. He includes them all. It's the source of all. And that is, again, that uniqueness of Eretz Yisrael, that all the forces are fully developed, are used, and used properly. Not as is, and take them as it, but all the forces are needed and used properly. As opposed to the approach that it's dangerous, it's different opinions, different ideas, different things, we have to get rid of them. And then you have an invalid, you cut off the arms and legs, he's very now, a wild child. He's now using his hands and legs for bad things, whatever. So now cut off his arms and legs. Now you're a very disciplined child, very obedient, just sits in quiet. But that's an invalid. We want the powers to use them properly, to grow up and redirect. Use them, redirect them to Torah, to the divine ideal, for good, to bringing blessing to the world, good into the world. So you need those arms and legs. The Gemara even says on Shabbat that if the child is breaking give him old dishes, give him old vessels. Let him break. Let him develop those energies. Use those powers. They're going to be needed later to put on tefillin, to be righteous, to be good, to bring blessing to the world, to be strong. To bring good to the world, you have to stand up to a lot of forces. You need strength, physical and spiritual power, energies. Otherwise, people weak and just collapse, and there's no chance. Avram Avinu against the whole world. To bring good, to bring oneness, to bring truth to the world. It's not simple. You have to be a gibor physically and spiritually. So the Gemara says, yes, let the child develop those energies. But he's breaking things with it. Okay, so give him old things that you don't mind. He ruins whatever to break them, different things. But let it use those powers, develop them. That's the stage, and now he's developing the muscles and the etc. And all that later, the bar mitzvah and now the Torah and redirecting education. Obviously, you don't leave it like that. Let him keep breaking. But take those powers and redirect them. But let him first develop the powers. So again, this approach applies to everything. And like in husband and wife, right? Each one thinks they're right. All the truth is by them. The other one is wrong. But to see how to communicate, how to understand each one, let me listen to your opinion. I understand what you're saying. Actually, in other words, it applies to everything, this holistic view. It's not again, the Talmudic discussion here is like the basis. Rav Kook uses this, so to speak, as the background, in other words, to explain and to show this concept of what we call this bigger view of truth, of shalom, of peace, of universal peace, of shlemut, of totality. What you thought was contradictory is actually complementary. And it sounds simple, but I said it applies to so much in life and in all of existence and all the different levels of. So I just wanted to share that with you for the time being. B'ezrat Hashem, there's a lot more, but we'll see. But you see, in the words of Rav Kook, that's one of the main messages. I would say, like I said before, the achdut. I think the Nazir said that. How would you summarize the novelty of Rav Kook? The achdut. Again, that's Judaism, right? Shema Yisrael, God is one. But that achdut, that doesn't mean one as opposed to three. Rav Kook explains this in the Siddur on Shema Yisrael. When God is one, as opposed to 4 or 6. No, the one that is it's not a quantitative one, excluding 3 or 4 gods, some Trinity, whatever. But rather, it's the one that is the source of all, the roots, the transcending oneness, the beyond all, that includes all, and it gives life to all, is a source of all. And everything emanates from that. All this understanding of Kook is just coming to explain what the Torah, the deeper view of Torah, is this holistic, total view of all. And that approach was so needed now because, first of all, that's the truth. And like I said, practically speaking, when the different opinions and coming back from the land, from Israel, from the exile, coming back, all the different approaches, different understandings, and different points of view, and in the state of Israel, the secular, the religious, the national. Rav Kook has an article in Orot, chapter 18, of the 3 camps that make up the nation of Israel. You have the nationalistic, today we would call them the right wing. You have the universal, we don't need the borders, the universal good and the love of all of mankind, the liberal, and the religious, right? They're just the Torah, Shabbat, Kashrut, keep the mitzvot. And each one is needed. Each one makes up a component of making up that whole society. The problem is when each one says me and only me, ani v'afsiod, the verse says, me and only me. My truth, this is true, no, Torah is true, no, the rest is meaningless. The other ones say nationalism, that we have to have a strong nation, and you universal, what you guys are, you'll lose the nation, you'll lose the religion, mapiton, where you're archaic, whatever. So only the national is what's true. The rest has to go. We got rid of the universal. Says you guys, the nationalism, you're dangerous, you're fascistic, whatever. And the religious, you guys are weird, backwards in the old ages. But all of them, that's the problem when each one thinks that me and only me. But if you have he talks about this 4th group, that is the overseeing, how do you call it, the view from above. Rav Kook calls it the view from the roots above. Like the Maral calls it, upside down tree. You can see the roots and all the branches that extend from that. The unified roots that you're all needed. The conductor, the orchestra, in other words. Each instrument thinks it's me and only me. Because if he thought at the beginning that everyone else is important, then wait a minute, so why am I learning drums? Maybe that's more important. He's in the army, maybe I shouldn't be in the yeshiva, because maybe that's important. They're all important values. So he'd be confused. He wouldn't do, what do I do? How do I live with the different, so to speak, different multiple values? So each one thinks, and that's part of the divine mechanism of that each one thinks that this is the most important thing, the only important thing. And that's why he focuses on his job and does it well and does it to the best. And then Rav Kook says how all these things at the end combined, gets fully developed branches come together to make this whole tree. You need both. You need all the different things developed fully, and then they combine. Then the conductor comes. You have a cacophony, right? Each one's tuning up the drums, the violin. It sounds awful. Then the conductor, and then he starts. Wow! And he puts them all together and shows them all how you thought you were alone and independent and separate and mutually exclusive. You don't need the rest. How all of you fit in together. You're needed and you're needed. We need you all. All needs all, and everyone needs. And together you make up. So that's the conductor. That's this perspective of Kook, this Eretz Yisrael, this unified, holistic view that knows how to conduct and bring all the different parts that seem to be so, even not only superfluous, but even contradictory and negative. And who wants them? Who needs them? Yes, we all need all the truth, and the conductor knows how to put them in their proper place, right? Not all the same and all everything. they're on their own. But now he knows how to organize them properly, coordinate it all to make this beautiful music, bringing Israel back to its full expression of all of its powers, all of its talents, and all of life, to bring that and to make a holy nation in the world, to explain and bring all the world to utilize all the energies and all the truths and all the good in the world, all that is created, to bring out the beautiful, unified, holistic perspective of reality of the redemption, B'ezrat Hashem, soon in our days.